the Suns and the Nuggets. We know that Chris Paul has been ruled out of this Game 3. Woj, what more can you tell us about his injury?
Yeah, this groin injury that Chris Paul has is going to make it really challenging to see him at all again in this conference semifinal series, especially I think if Denver were to take a 3-0 lead, the idea of him coming back in a Game 4, it doesn't seem like even a realistic conversation perhaps to a Game 5. If this was the regular season, I think Chris Paul would be out multiple weeks with this injury. He wants to try to do everything he can, but these are difficult injuries. And you look at this depth of this Suns team, how much they gave up in the Kevin Durant trade. They pay for that even more when they lose Chris Paul, especially in, essentially a must-win Game 3 down 2-0.
Right. Now the series, it shifts back to Phoenix. What exactly is at stake here, Michael Wilbon?
Everything. The Suns as we know them. I mean, when you get a new owner who's this dynamic and is determined to win, and you see the move he was able to boldly make with Kevin Durant, he's not waiting around 2, 3, 4-year plans. That's not what we're going to see, I don't think, from Matt Ishbia. So you see DeAndre Ayton there. Look, they were going to let DeAndre Ayton go already. They didn't step up to make the first big offer to keep DeAndre Ayton. They could have done that. And he's been, let's face it, somewhat disappointing, particularly in this series. I don't want to see the Suns without Chris Paul. But, I mean, we could be looking at that as well. I mean, his entire salary for next year, not even guaranteed. So are we going to see the Suns going forward? If they lose this series with DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul, even Monty Williams, I think and Monty's coming off, talk about, he coach of the year 2 years ago, and has done a spectacular job there. But I think, again, when you have a new owner, and he wants to win and sees a path to it and has made this deal for Kevin Durant, and you have in your prime Devin Booker, a whole lot of things will be at play.
I think the question for Matt Ishbia that I think he's probably asking himself, other people in Phoenix, would they have done the exact same trade with Brooklyn, given up Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, 4 first-round picks, a pick swap, if they knew what the details of the next collective bargaining agreement were going to be? Because what they have found out since, and what the league is finding out now, is that it is going to be very difficult for teams like Phoenix, like Golden State, like the Clippers, to have the highest payrolls in the league and have any flexibility on your roster. What the league wanted, they didn't get a hard cap, but they got something that might act like a hard cap for teams. The league has wanted to spread the talent around the NBA. They want that third star for a team in another market. It's going to be hard to have 3 stars, 3 max players. Phoenix is going to be facing that. You're going to hear this term second apron. It's the second tax apron. You're going to hear it over and over this summer because this is going to be one of the most active trade summers in the league because teams are going to have to start getting their payrolls and their rosters balanced out. You're not going to see these veteran-laden role players making significant salary with superstars. If you're going to pay 2 or 3 guys at the top, you're going to have a less expensive roster down below.
Woj, is that not another way of saying, I mean, obviously all those points are valid, but is that not another way of saying we're not going to see superstars wanting to join one another in little regard for the cap and what have you? That's going to be prevented now.
We're going to see superstars still able to join each other, but what they have traditionally seen as the kind of infrastructure they want, lots of really good veteran players.
Right.
That's not going to be as possible. You may see if you have 3 stars together or 2 max stars, you're going to have a roster of less experienced, less expensive players.
So what does that mean now for the Phoenix Suns as currently constructed? Because they are the pinnacle of what you're talking about. All the talent at the top.
I think they're in a world of trouble. You obviously have the cornerstones of your franchise with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker moving forward. That is not a bad place to start. But when you look at everything else that they have in place, I mean, listen, we don't want to take this season into consideration. I'm looking at the top 4 players in this series. Do you know outside of Ayton, Paul, Durant, Booker, no one else is averaging more than 3.5 points a game?
Wow.
No one. This is what they are.
Well, you got to play them so if they're going to average more than 3.5, and there's a couple of guys in their roster, one of whom averages, 16?
Warren.
Just, a year or so ago?
Yeah.
So you've got to use them and trust them, and maybe that's part of this, the changing nature of the landscape as well, Woj.
And to Woj's point, I know this is another subject for another day, but it still frustrates me that we're talking about salary caps in the NBA and NFL and not other major sports. But with that being said, for the Phoenix Suns, they're in trouble. The Nuggets are more physical. They're taller. They're younger. They got a two-time MVP who's virtually unstoppable. And they have home court advantage. CP3 is out. The last 9 postseasons since 2015 for Chris Paul, he's been injured in over half of them, unfortunately.
Right, and you're gonna be able to exceed the cap. You can continue to do that, but then you're very limited. You can lose draft picks for being over that second apron. It becomes very difficult. Denver's a team that's going to have tough choices to make. There's a race for those teams as they're constructed now to put a title in the win column before they've got to make some of those real hard roster decisions.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.